everybody. This is Dr. Novak again. This could be one of those videos that I could be saying because the tank's over a year old, which we have seen videos, and I have watched these videos. You have seen them, I know you have, where I could be saying, well, the tank's a year old, and I neglected it, and I think I'm going to tear it down. I bought some new plants, and I'm going to re-landscape it, and because I neglected it. Now, I know you've seen these videos because if I've seen them, and several of them, I know you've seen them. And a lot of these people that are doing this have big, huge audiences watching their videos. And the first thing is, after the tank reaches a year old, is I got to tear the tank down because it's, well, I neglected it. And then when they show a close-up, you see string algae and hair algae and everything covering up the tank. And the excuse is, you know, they neglected it. But a lot of these people that have done that have big production companies. In other words, they have a camera operator, they have several tanks in a studio, and they're going to tear the tank down after a year. That should not be. I mean, after a year, your aquarium should be running on autopilot. And for a lot of aquariums, it should be at its precipice of, you know, of beauty. Because by this time, the plants have had a year's worth of growth to them, and they should be showing their beauty of what they look like even in the wild, or what they're going to be doing in that year's time. Now, when I think about it, neglect, well, that's a big word that can have many different definitions for many different people, correct? Now, this aquarium has once a week got about a 5-gallon water change. It's 90 gallon. I set it up over a year ago. You can watch videos of me setting the whole thing up. And by, it was March 14th is when the video started being presented to you. So the tank is over a year old. Now let's talk about neglect. The most I've done with this aquarium is clean the glass, which we all would, and a water change. But in that whole year's time, let's think. Let's see, the canister filter, last time I cleaned it was, let's see, I write the dates on them. Last year, November 1st. It is now 5 months since I cleaned the canister filter. Could we say that's neglect? Yeah, we could say that. 5 months old, I haven't even touched the canister filter. Okay, that's neglect. Let's see, I've done water changes, not every week. Okay, I have to admit, sometimes I'm gone on vacation and I maybe skip the 2 or 3 weeks, but I try to do it once a week, 5 gallons, and refill it up with fresh water to put calcium back in and things, because we have hard water, and that hard water is good for snails and shrimp. Okay, let's see, what else? The aquarium has over 100 fish. It's got over 30 cherry shrimp. I don't know how many amano shrimp. Just the other day I saw more baby amano shrimps floating around. They don't seem to last though, but I've seen some more. So it has cherry shrimp and has amano shrimp in there, 30 cherry shrimp as far as I know. Let's see. Plus about 100 fish of different varieties are in this aquarium. And I feed them twice a day. I don't feed them like some other hobbyists show that they only feed their fish maybe once a day, once every other day, once every 3 days, because they're so scared that they are going to get algae problems all over the place. I feed mine twice a day with the tetracolored food, which I did a video on. And in the afternoon, I will feed them myosin shrimp or prime shrimp. They seem to like it. I have a special feeder. I'll do a review on that feeder. Real nice. You put the frozen cubes in. I don't even rinse the cubes off. I put them in frozen into this special feeder. They melt and the fish go crazy eating them. Okay, so I don't clean the cubes, pre-clean them. I just put them in a feeder, and I'll do a review on that. Okay, that's kind of neglect. Lights are on for at least anywhere between 6 to 7 hours a day. Plants photosynthesize in that amount of time because you really don't need your lights on any longer than 8 hours a day. Otherwise, you're basically, if your plants aren't going to photosynthesize in 8 hours or less, they're not going to photosynthesize. Okay, let's just face facts. Let's call it the way it is. If you're not getting your plants to photosynthesize in that amount of time, adding 12 hours, 15 hours, it's not going to do any good. You're just going to cause more problems. So 8 hours or less, between 8 to 6 hours of light. If they can't photosynthesize in that amount of time, you're doing something wrong. You don't have enough light, or maybe you need CO2, or it could be a problem. Okay, neglect. Let's get back to that neglect. I digress, and I'll go back to neglect. How I neglected this tank. Let's see. Fertilizer. Oh, let's go to that. Have I neglected it? Not put fertilizer in? Yes. Purposely did it. 99.9% of all the fertilizer that goes in here is in the sump or the auto top off sump. It's a 5-gallon auto top off sump. Showed it in my videos. I mix some iron with it, and liquid iron, and I flourish iron is what I use, and I mix it in there, and I fill it up for the week, and let that run and re-top off the tank, because I'm using a wear, and of course the top's open, so it evaporates, and I guess about a half gallon of water evaporates a day from this aquarium. And let's see, that's about it. That's about it as far as fertilizer goes. Is that neglect? I would say, yeah, that's neglect. Why haven't I got a little fertilizer bottle and pumped it in there, twice a week? It's not needed. Plants, the main element on which I have taught you is iron. So many hobbyists will think that they have to keep fertilizing their plants because they use up all the elements out of the system. But I don't need to. I bought a substrate that's supposed to have, fertilizers and stuff in it, locked up in it, such as the fluval substrate that I'm using. And that is supposed to have trace elements, micro elements, and trace elements of ions and stuff that the plants are supposed to need. So why haven't I had to really keep fertilizing the aquarium besides putting iron in, which we know that iron is the #1 thing that plants really need over nitrogen and phosphates. And the nitrogen level of this tank is probably a 2 or 3, and the phosphate level is 0.08 or less. So that means I'm not feeding the aquarium nitrates and phosphates as per everybody has suggested on other videos. You've got to feed your plants nitrate and phosphates. Well, I guess I proved that to be wrong. I guess if this was the Mythbusters, that would be busted. It's a myth. So we could say that's neglect, can't we? Yeah, okay. Not only that, but when I first started the tank, I had a light on here, 195 watts, equal to 400 watts metal halide, which is equal to anywhere between 12 to 18,000 lumens. 12 to 18,000 luminous output. Now on here I have 18,000 lumens using 3 of the lights that I have done a review on, the Asta lights, the 120s. But before then, I had over 28,000 looms. And somebody brought up in comments, we'll have to see if that's going to cause any algae problems. Well, it caused, let's see, it caused this much algae problems, zero. Zero algae problems with 28,000 looms. Now that doesn't make sense because I neglected the tank with that much light. And now I'm running 18,000 in it. So definitely it should be covered with algae, right? String algae, hair algae, you name it. Because all I've done is taken water out and put it in. Oh yeah. How many times have I cleaned the gravel? That's it. Let's see. In the whole year, how many times have I cleaned the gravel? Well, that's also a big zero. I haven't cleaned the substrate once. Not once have I touched that substrate. Hasn't gotten clean. I guess that's neglect too. But I don't have to really touch it because fluids are moving in and out of the substrate because I'm using a plenum. That means anything that's in the water column here, meaning CO2, meaning iron, anything that I'm feeding them, if there's nitrogen and phosphates, it's all going in the water column, and you are guaranteed that it will go into the substrate so the roots of the plants can grab those ions and elements out of the aquarium. You're guaranteed that. Where I've had some people make comments saying that that you can only achieve that if you're not using a plenum. So that's 100% false. To make sure you got the elements that are in here, like CO2. One person made a comment that you can only get CO2 to the plant roots if you're not using a plenum. Well, that's 100% false. I don't know where people come up with this. I mean, they just make things off the top of their head and pretend they're science, but that's not science. You can't go to any university and start teaching anybody that kind of science because it's phony science. When you have a plenum, in the slow-moving plenum, for example, the CO2 that's in your aquarium that you're saturating, it literally goes into the substrate and goes to the root system, meaning your plants are getting saturated with CO2 on the roots and to the leaves themselves. Smart. You have to keep fluids moving. This is how Mother Nature does it. It doesn't lock in everything and make sulfide bacteria grow or fermentation grow or ammonia grow. And this is what happens when we hear the word, my aquarium crashed. A crash aquarium means your ammonia levels just skyrocket right up and destroy the tank because it was released out of the substrate. And I get a lot of emails from people that happen to who have used dirted aquariums or aquariums where fluids did not move through the substrate. They crashed. Now, a long time ago, we really didn't hear about aquariums crashing. But now I hear it more because I get the emails from all over the world. So this is what I'm getting. People said, I have two aquariums. One guy said I had two aquariums with mud. One crashed and the other one seems to be doing okay. That's what happens. So much ammonia builds up. So much of your sulfate bacteria start producing hydrogen sulfide and stuff like that, that if for any reason that gets released into the system or starts killing off your plants and they cannot photosynthesize correctly, you can wind up with a crash. Okay, so I haven't cleaned the substrate, and I am going to show you pictures of this aquarium after a year. Now, if you have an aquarium, I have warned you several times, if you make an aquarium using a plenum, if you make an aquarium using BCB baskets, you're going to wind up, if you use a planted aquarium, with a jungle aquarium. I've said that. And let's stop right there. Because all I've done is water changes, haven't cleaned the substrate, my canister filter is 5 months old of dirt and filth. Believe me, planted tanks are filthy. Let me check the redox. Okay, The ORP, or redox, right now of this aquarium is 419. pH is 7.4. 419 with a dirty, filthy canister filter. Substrate has never been cleaned in a year. Okay, so I would say that's neglect. I don't know about you, but I would say that's neglect. Or is it neglect? I'm going to show you plants like Anubias plants right now. I showed a few weeks ago one of my Anubias plants had 2 flowers on it. Well, that same Anubias plant now has 4 flowers on it. Not 2, but 4. And there's more coming up on that plant of flowers. I'm going to show you some crypt that are over 16 to 17 inches tall. One plant has multiplied 30 plus times in 1 year since it's been in the aquarium. That means one plant has literally made other plants constantly in the aquarium to over 30 plants in 1 year. I'm going to show you the Italian veil, which I bought 3 of them, now has multiplied to about, I would say, 30 to 40 plants and the time they have been in here. The Amazon swords are smaller ones, they're growing. You will see old pictures of the 3 Amazon swords I bought. You will see a year later 3 Amazon swords. They're doing good. They're not the big Amazon swords that grow to 18, 20 inches. But I did warn people that if you make a tank like this, it will turn into a jungle tank, literally. The moss was little pieces of moss. That's all I had in the tank. Now, the moss in 1 year's time, this is 1 year's worth of growth, all the wood I put in there is gone. You don't even know there's wood in there. I could have put plastic PVC pipe in there for anyone cares because you can't see any of the wood. I'm also going to show you close-up pictures of the plants so you can see the plant leaves. I'm going to show you close-up pictures of the wood that's in there. You're going to see it's not all covered full of algae or anything else. Now, I have algae eaters like everybody would have in the aquarium. Snails like most people would have. But for a tank that's been neglected, you're probably going to say to yourself, damn, that's not a bad tank for being neglected for over a year. Unlike other YouTube channels that say a year later that, oh, I have to tear it down, and you can see when they show a close-up of everything that, yeah, I can understand you got algae starting to grow all over the place and it's getting out of hand. Not feeding their fish. What good is that? If you're going to have these animals, it's your responsibility to feed them and take care of them. If you're going to have an aquarium and you want to have plants and you want to have the animal life, well, you have to have a balancing act. And this is what people seem to not understand. You have to do things correctly. The thing about it is, when I watch these videos, they just do the same mistake as they did the first time and repeat it. They take their substrate, they take the whole thing apart, and take their substrate once again and throw it at the bottom of the aquarium, and then put their rocks and stuff on top of it, and they do the same mistake, and they think they're going to come up with different results. After they do the same thing as they did and it didn't work, they're going to try it again. Well, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, right? You've already tried it, it doesn't work, so you're going to just repeat it. And then another year from now, you can have another video saying, oh, I neglected the tank, and well, I'm going to take it down, I'm going to put new plants in it. You're just doing the same mistake over and over repetitively and thinking you're going to come up with different results. It doesn't work that way. Try something different. Try educate yourself to find out Is there something else I can do? What am I doing wrong? Because it's not the tank that's doing anything wrong. It's the hobbyist who's building the tank is doing something wrong because they're not understanding the science of how it works, how a natural system works. That's why this aquarium is like it is. And when you look at the pictures of 1 year ago, you will see the big, huge difference between what the plants look like today and what they look like when the tank was first set up. Big difference. But do I have any desire to tear this 90-gallon tank down? No. In fact, it will keep going. The plants are going to multiply. You will see the plants will multiply. And they will just fill up the aquarium. And that's how I will do it. Okay. I thought I would show you some close-ups of the aquarium so you can see for yourself. Back there, you can see cherry shrimp eating on the microorganisms off of the moss. The moss is actually growing on the weir in the very back, and that crevice. The moss that you see back there is actually growing on the weir itself. So that is filling in. But I wanted to show you some close-ups to show you don't see algae growing all over everything. All you see is plant life. Here is the Anubias with now 4 flowers on it. I did a video when it flowered the first time. You can see over on its left-hand side the mottled sword plant. You see how small it is? It's not getting any light anymore. Here's one of the crypts that I brought from the 20-gallon. It has multiplied like 6 times already. And here's one of its new babies, and there's another new one growing over here. There's another new one growing, and this will keep multiplying. Here is the sword plants, which is in some of the other pictures that I show. And as you notice, I don't really cut away the old leaves. I just let them stay in the aquarium. They just rot away. I don't worry about them polluting the aquarium. I guess you could say I neglected that, but without algae and anything, I'm not worried about it. Then we come over to this guy, this crypt, and this one I bought when the tank was new. The one on the right side is one I got from the 20-gallon, but this one, it's over 16 inches tall and has multiplied like over 30 times. In the front, you can see like little soldiers marching. This is the Italian veil, and that was not planted there. That grew there. And the Italian veil was originally planted on the side here of the aquarium, over here. There were 3 plants planted, and they have just multiplied all along the side. And, of course, look at the wood. Not full of algae, not full of hair algae, still looks like wood. So I wanted to show you some close-ups of the aquarium. I'll show you the very top. Here's the top. Some of the cherry shrimp eating. Like I said, there's over 30 of them in there. There's another cherry shrimp over here. You can see it in the back there. There's moss growing on top of a piece of wood. Now, there's wood underneath here, expensive wood. You know, wood costs a lot for this aquarium. So much per pound. And look at it. It's gone. It's 100% gone. And I'm showing you these close-ups to show you. The tank's not all full of algae. There's no algae problems. There's nothing. Because it's a year old and everything ought to be broken in and working naturally, like a natural system. Very little maintenance and care has to be done to the aquarium to keep it looking like this. Because it uses an anoxic filtration system, it uses a plenum to get what's in the aquarium, CO2 or anything else, into the substrate. And even though it has over 100 fish in it, it's probably got, I'm going to say 10 otocinclus. Here's one of them swimming. It's probably got about 10 of those in there, plus some snails, and plus the mono shrimp and all. But this is what I want to show you. And this is what your tank should look like after a year. It shouldn't be that you're telling audiences that I neglected my tank and it's now a year old and I have to tear it down. That should never happen. You should never be telling your audience that. You should be showing your audience a success story. But you can only tell people so much and do so much to help them, and if they don't want to do it, it's 100% up to them, not me. But the canister, like I said, 5 months now. And I'll take you and even show you. There it is. There's your pH, 7.46, and redox is 415. And that's for a neglected aquarium. And here's a shot of the aquarium 36 inches deep. As you notice how clean and clear the water is, I explain how to make a generic Dick Boyd's ChemiPure to keep the water crystal clear like that. And remember that carbon hasn't been changed in over 5 months. So that's old carbon being used. But I show you how to make basically ChemiPure and to keep your water crystal clear. The water is crystal clear. It almost looks like the fish are not even swimming in water at all. And as you can see the wood without algae all over it. Sorry about the glare there, but now you can see the wood without the algae. So I don't know much more. I thought I'd give you a close look at the aquarium. There's not a lot of different plants in here. I have to admit that, but the plants that are in here are really grown like crazy. And this is what I tried to tell you. You start an anoxic filter, you start a plenum, and your tank is going to turn into a jungle tank. And you'll be able to keep shrimp and everything else because this tank has plenty of bacteria on it to keep the cherry shrimp happy. And I do not, like I said, I do not feed them anything extra. They eat entirely 100% off of what's on the moss. So zero maintenance with the cherry shrimp, zero. I don't do a thing to them. They just live their little life. Same as the mono shrimp. They're still alive. They're in there hiding, and that's that. So that's a year. What's it going to look like in 2 years? I don't know. I imagine the right side's going to be covered with that crypt that's over on the right side. It's going to be filling up that spot. The Italian veil that's in the front, I'm sure that's going to multiply. And the Anubias that's in the center there, that's probably going to be twice as big as it is now after 2 years. So there's a lot to look forward to. No reason tearing down a tank after a year. If somebody's telling you they neglected their tank and it's got to be torn down, they're not doing something right. I'm telling you right now, they're doing something 100% wrong. This is a neglected aquarium. You're looking at it. This is neglected. It has high light output on it, stronger than most people would put on their aquariums, and yet where is the algae? And I can show you the same thing with the goldfish aquarium. Where is the algae? It's because you now have a biotope or a ecosystem that's working perfectly, even though it has 100 fish in it. And it doesn't look like it has 100 fish in it because right now they're all scared because I'm filming this, but yeah, it has over 100 fish in this aquarium. Well, that's it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. You can see how the tank has changed in that 1 year time period, and I hope you have great success with your aquarium using an anoxy filter and a plenum. And I hope this gives you some insight to how powerful a system can be, and running correctly, it should last for years and years to come. So until next time, this is Dr. Novak. Thank you very much for watching, and thank you very much for subscribing to my channel. Until next time, happy fish keeping.